Hi, I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm your host for Different Thinking for Different Times, Season 5, Episode 2. I like to start with a few quotes, and today I'm opening with one from Roger Teel from his book, This Life is Joy. Our judgments mask us from ourselves by making us negative experts on people and things. That makes me chuckle. More on that in a minute. And Ernest Holmes is a favorite of mine. And so here's a quote from Ernest Holmes. Never limit your view of life by any past experience. The possibility of life is inherent within the capacity to imagine what life is, backed by the power to produce this imagery or divine imagination. So let's go back to the quote from Roger Teel. We see so much evidence today of negative judgments and people spending so much time making others wrong. Instead, we should be concerned with doing the right thing, not being right. And then the view that we are right and others are wrong is a monologue. It's not a dialogue, which where a jointly created reality can come from. The willingness to compromise, and we've really gone off the rails in today's society. And we're not thinking like the infinite creator. We forget that we're floating on a marble size, and maybe it's even smaller than a marble, in a galaxy within a universe that's infinite. I love the the James Webb and the Hubble, especially the Webb now finding new stars forming, new galaxies forming, new planets being born. And we're so small minded. Imagine the force that's creating all that and continues to create it since, I guess, the Big Bang, 13 point something 2 billion years ago. And we forget that that 13.2 billion years brought us to today. And humans, in fact, are so limited by hubris and egoic thinking that we even just spend so much time making each other wrong that we get nothing done. And then we do it in our personal lives. I'm not just talking about politics. We do it at work, we do it at home. We spend so much time listening to that voice, that little voice, what I call the acorn brain. Rainier Maria Rilke, I quote him in my book, Sage Advice, which is available on Amazon. I'll give myself a plug. And he said, "Will you listen to the little hooligan?" That's what he called that voice, the little hooligan. And the fact that humans are run by such small minded thinking, we don't stop to even ask, what would the infinite do here? Whatever you call it, the divine, the goddess, the god, the Brahma, the Buddha, the Abraham, the Muhammad, the Christ consciousness, all those prophets, I believe, came to tell us how to live fully, and that there was, in fact, no sin in this life. There's mistakes and certainly errors in judgment. And there are some that make huge mistakes. When I think of past history, such as Mussolini or Hitler and many other despotic leaders, but think how small minded they were. Now, it doesn't begin with making the big changes. It begins with each of us being willing to change and asking, does that sound like small minded thinking? And we have free will, so we can let that little voice, that little acorn brain, or sometimes I call it the little fucker or the little hooligan, we can let that run us. But our job in life is to overcome that. And my journey is my business. Your journey is yours. And I love the fact that there's so many different journeys, 7 billion plus now. Each of us, our journeys are as different as our fingerprints. And if we aren't willing to have a dialogue with others, even at home, and allow differences, learn to accept them, not tolerate them, learn to accept them and embrace all the differences, then we won't advance individually. We won't advance at home, and we certainly won't advance in the larger world, in the larger scheme of things. So it's just something that I want you to ponder. As I ponder it for myself, because I'm not exempt from the acorn brain, except for that moment on November 18th, 2002, when I passed from this existence into the infinite, one with everything and nothing. That small minded thinker doesn't go with us. And it's not even a thought. We don't have the thought that says, wow, I don't have all that voice, all those small minded thoughts. We go from this to the infinite, one with everything and nothing. And it had no name. It was just a knowing. One second I was in intensive care, and the next second I was one with everything and nothing. And it was an amazing, amazing feeling, if there was such a thing. But I can only say that now, back in my body. Infinite mercy, infinite love, infinite grace, and the now. There was only the now. And that's where I learned, one, back in my body, the small minded thoughts came back. And that's where I learned that's my job, to overcome that small minded thinking, to become more like the infinite. And that the now was where God is. I had been, like a lot of other people, I've been studying other religions and faiths and philosophies since the time I knew I wouldn't be a priest, when I met Sophie, a young lady who was beautiful, wonderful. I'm not with her today, but that's what her gift was, to push me off the idea of being a priest. And I'm so glad and grateful that that occurred, because it put me on a journey of discovery. And I found the theme in all the different faiths. So many are rooted in Abraham. In fact, they would all be, if you consider the early population. And then even all those faiths rooted in the same tree have gone on for eons to fight each other over things. They'll never really change anyone's mind. And I'm not making any of the faiths wrong, as long as they connect us to our higher self, our higher being, the infinite, what's possible. But as Muhammad said, what reaches you is meant for you, and what misses you wasn't. And Christ said all things work together for good. And if you think of what the Buddha said, and so many of the faiths, I think that as people started recording or remembering what was said, and they started to put it on paper, their little acorn brains came in somewhere, if they wanted vengeance from one group or another. But it's certainly not what I experienced. There was no mention of the mistakes I made, or what others might call sin. My life review showed me how many lives I had touched, the good I had done. And that's the other thing I learned, that the divine is in the now. It's never separate. Whatever created this universe, if it took its attention on us, off of us, if it took its attention away, we would cease to exist. And yes, you can feel righteous and wanting to change me or everyone else in the world, and think about what a wasted time that is. You could be doing good. When I get a knock on my window or someone who asks me for money today or someone that needs help, whether it's family or friends or strangers, when I'm traveling in a rest area and someone knocks on my window and says, I lost my debit card. Oh boy, I need money. I need help. I just ask, stop. What do you need? Don't tell me the story. What do you need? Gas? Let's get you gas. Money? Let's get you money. Food? Let's get you food. And when I'm done, I say, thank you to the universe. Thank you, God. Thank you, the divine, for allowing me to serve you. And I think all those nudges are a little test. Will we? Will we embrace the infinite, the higher thinker that we all have? At least I know you all do have it somewhere because I found it within myself. And as I think back in my life from the age of a young child, I'd find myself overwhelmed with feelings of love for the moment and feelings of love for all the people around me. Where does that come from? How do you feel when you do good? Think about it. There's a reason for it. The good we do, somehow, at least the good I did, was etched onto the fabric of time. And I don't have all the answers. I do know that when I was asked the question, stay or go, by a voice I cannot describe, my consciousness answered with, Thy will be done. And I had not surrendered like that. And I was 50 at the time, I'm embarrassed to say, but I had not surrendered fully like that. I spent most of my days railing against what was, wanting something different in the future, or ruminating over the past, and of course, the mistakes that the acorn brain reminds us of, at least me. And I realized I was the only one in the past, and what a waste. So spend some time pondering it. If you want to challenge me about these ideas, that's fine. You can be a guest on the podcast. You can email me, as some have, and I'm grateful for that. And remember, if you come on the podcast or if you email me, I might just ask you, does that sound like small-minded thinking? If I can help one person expand what's possible in their life by overcoming all the places they fight against others and against what is actually present in their life, it's meant for you. It's urging you to learn and grow and overcome that small-minded thinker, that limited thinker, and expand into the limitless thinking that created a limitless universe, a miracle for all of us to live on here in this garden planet. So beautiful, unless you think it's not. Any questions? You can email me, steve@stevelentini.com. I'll spell it for you, Steve, Steve, at Steve, L as in Linda, N as in Nancy, TINI.com. I'm grateful. Thank you for listening.